Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studio, and with me today is Sheriff Mark Butler and Deputy Terry Fritts, his right-hand man here in the administration section. It's kind of that time again to talk about what's been going on at the Sheriff's Office and all the events and things that you have coming up in 2023. You were here without our friend Robbie last time, wasn't it? Or did Robbie come last? Robbie came the last time, the time before, but it just went so smooth without Robbie. And Sheriff, I want you to know, he's been milking this medical leave.
Whatever. Robbie's the man.
He's actually doing well, though.
Good.
He's recovering from his surgery.
Right.
He's up walking, so he's hoping to be back
I just talked to him last night.
Yeah, he's ready to go back to work.
He is. He's already walking
But you got to really watch him because he'll
overdo it.
He'll overdo it. That's kind of what his MO is.
It is.
Use that police talk.
There you go.
Well, what's happening in the near future at the Sheriff's Office?
So near future, January 26th, we are hosting a public event. We're going to be doing church security. It's going to be situational awareness, and it's going to be hosted at the Warren County Sheriff's Office in our community room. Sergeant Vorse is going to be teaching everyone about situational awareness and what you can look out for, how to keep your place of worship safe. Just some good tips.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things you can learn about that, and things you probably already are doing that you just don't realize the benefits of doing it. Like where you sit, where you do it, how you have people standing here or there, and just being aware of situations like that. It's a great workshop.
Yeah, he's piggybacking on the previous one that we hosted, church security and how to keep your place of worship safe. So this one is going to be somewhat of a continuation and situational awareness, which you can do in your congregation and stuff.
It's a great workshop, and if you have an organization that meets like a church, I'm sure that would
Well, it's open to anybody. It doesn't
Right.
have to be just a church because it's a good event for anybody. Just good tips, especially if you're a business person and just want to look for some tips on how to keep your place of business safe, not just your place of worship.
And we do that when you walk in the door. Notice, of course, our door's locked. But that's
a good security tip.
It is a security tip. It wasn't the reason, but again, things you look at when I walk up to the door and look at them, I'm check. You never know nowadays. People come in. So.
Everybody's more conscious of where they're around. What we actually ran on this has been our platform for 4 years now.
Right.
And that's the we concept. We together can make a difference, right? So our SROs and our programs that we're developing and trying to develop more programs for the youth to mentor. We're working on another one that we're trying to get figured out to where our SROs at the middle school and the high school stay an extra hour or two in between that session before where school breaks out to the time they start doing their after-school activities.
Right.
That way the SRO is there and they can help with homework, they can help with the weight room, they can help with different areas. So that puts us more in the mentor side. But the problem is our local schools, our county schools, our SROs are there and that's fine, but there's a lot of schools that are church or private and so forth, homeschool, and we needed to find a way to reach out that way. And because most of them are faith-based, I got with Roger about a year and a half ago. And I said, look, we need to put something together for our faith base to come in so we can kind of give the same things that the schools are getting, and they can police their own as well, and we make more. Of course, with Robbie Seal, he's constantly trying to reach out to everybody, and Sergeant Fritts as well. So it's something that's taken us a little bit because of COVID, and we're coming out of that, and we're doing accreditation. And I'll talk more about accreditation later, how important that is for most agencies. But that's one of our big functions that we're working on.
Right. You've mentioned that word a lot too, but we were even talking about other industries. The automotive industry and the HVAC, they all work under accreditation and certification, and it kind of gets everybody on a good level of an industry standard, so to speak. And it's no different than the police department or the sheriff's department.
Correct, 100%.
Same way. So it's great. So these programs that you've done, I call it what do you call it?
Community outreach.
Community. I was thinking civil, but that's not the word I wanted. No. Community policing, and that's all part of that, because you can't do it by yourself.
No, it's all part of the concept.
Yeah.
So the whole community policing started actually in the 1800s over in England. We brought it to the United States really in about 1980s.
We're a little slow.
We are. But what it is we know we have issues. The community knows they have issues. But a lot of times the community doesn't feel confident in reaching out to the locality or the local law enforcement. So if we embed ourselves into the community so to gain the trust of the community and they understand that we are the same every day, we're holding our standards to the highest of levels, then they will actually then have the confidence in us to have us address the issues at hand. And I think it's showing and it's working, and it's going to take us time. I will continue to run until we get it done.
Right.
The sheriff's office, the majority of everybody there is bought into it, of this community togetherness, and I couldn't be more prouder of every deputy in there.
That's great. It's great. I know that the sheriff's department has done a lot in our community this last year. To kind of highlight of a few things. I first thought off mine is you had the Divas in the football team, but that's just me.
So we are doing the sheriff's football camp again this year. Yeah. It is going to be in June. We're growing the camp bigger than what it was last year. Mark Mosley, from my understanding, is on board and will be assisting us with promoting it. We will be reaching out to neighboring jurisdictions to see if they would like to participate, because we want to make this the biggest and best football camp that we can and reach as many kids, because that's what it's about, is reaching the kids, having a good positive experience, and have our deputies and sheriff there to help mentor. They'll run some drills too.
He loves that coaching thing. He gets out there and
I love coaching.
He's giving them.
I might go back and coach again this year.
Fireball on that coaching thing, and you know what? All the kids stuck it out. They did it. They did the drills. They participated, and it was a great camp. Of course, you can't have good food too, but
But and I think it's such a benefit for the community, because if you try to send your child to one of these camps, it's a $300 or $400 just for a one-day camp.
Right.
And here, the community has come together to build this, and has taken and run with it. It's free.
Yeah.
It's a free camp, and they're getting trained. And it's open to female and male. It doesn't matter.
I seen a couple of them girls on there.
They were good.
Playing. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. And that's what we want to do, because I don't know about you, Mike, but when I was in high school, if it wasn't for sports, I probably wouldn't be where I'm sitting today. And I owe a lot to not only the military and the many years I spent in the military, but the football and all the school sports that kind of held my feet to the fire to do right over wrong, and so that's kind of what we're trying to with the concept.
Yeah, when you look back on those days, I wasn't into sports. If it wasn't for sports, because I stayed away from them, but I got into electronics and things, and a teacher mentored me during that in my high school days, because I wouldn't have had it, just like you have the coach mentoring in the sports. So there's people out there that want to help. We just got to dig. And keep your eyes open.
We have some good SROs that participate in some of the school sports. They're mentoring and coaching football in the high school and basketball. So we have a very active SRO and mentor program.
It's a great program, and it's going to be hard to, how do you measure the success of it? But over a long period of time, then you'll be able to see the numbers, and it'll trickle to the top.
It takes a while, though.
Yeah.
It really does. It takes a while, but I do believe all the compliments that we get on a regular basis at the sheriff's office, very proud of it. We get compliments every single day on our deputies and how they're now communicating with the community, and the respect and the professionalism. Couldn't be any prouder of them.
Yeah,
that's probably one of the. An individual came to me, Mike, and. I said, well, I'm going to run again. And I said, I'd like your support. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, Sheriff. He goes, for the first time in a long time, we actually feel safe with the Warren County Sheriff's Office. And he goes, I will support you. I won't mention his name, because that's up to him to say that.
Sure.
But it was probably one of the greatest compliments that I have received in the last 3 years.
Right. I don't think people really are aware sometimes that the sheriff's office is a constitutional office and it's an elected position. And one of the few, our Commissioner of Revenue and our attorney, Commonwealth Attorney, and the Sheriff's Department they're elected, and every 4 years, correct?
Every 4 years.
So this is your time again.
This November, I'll be on the poll.
So the voters are what determines, whether you've done a good job or a bad
Correct.
job. So, we've had, it's been 4 years, and it's hard to believe it's been 4 years. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure with you, you've seen it, but when you look back, you think, already 4 years?
It's gone by fast.
Well, 3 years, so it's this year.
It's still gone by fast.
Yeah, it has gone by very fast. I remember sitting right here when you first announced that you were going to run for sheriff, and it just seems like yesterday, and I have seen a lot of change in the sheriff's department, and that's good. It's good, and a lot more visible awareness. I tell you one thing they do, they'll write you a ticket even in town.
Yeah, but hold on with that, because I don't have my stats in front of me with the book yearly review, but I'll send it to you, and you can post whatever you want out of it.
Right.
And we can start with the first part of it is the hard work that Robbie Seal, Sergeant Fritts,
They have done
our
a lot.
SROs, and everybody else. Our community outreach has probably, probably 50% to 60%.
Well, when they
or
bring this
more.
list, I mean,
Right.
every quarter, it fills the whole sheet of paper of
It does.
activities and things that the sheriff's department is involved in.
We're trying to be as one with the community, and that's our goal. That's the true goal of community policing.
Right.
Over the last few years, we've had COVID. Our Constitution has been challenged, questioned, and approached. And the Warren County Sheriff's Office, I believe, has showed both 2A, 1A, 4A, all our amendments that the Warren County Sheriff's Office stands true to the Constitution. I will continue to run independent. I will still be looking for my names and signatures. But I don't believe the sheriff should ever be a part of any party. That, I think, is at a higher level. But in our community, I have to be for 100% everyone in the community. And I'm not going to make everyone happy. But one thing you have got to know is that we are going to treat you fairly, and we're going to run it exactly with the Constitution and the code.
So, and I know you say, we'll ask you anything, but you fess up when you make a mistake, and you try not to go after the applause. I know you're kind of a low key kind of a guy, believe it or not. I see that. But if you look back now on these last 3 years, let me tell you what your low time was and what your high time was.
Well, I think everybody knows some of our low times. We've had a few incidents that no department would be proud that they were a part of. But when we look through but like I told someone, you didn't elect me to ensure nothing bad ever happened. You elected me to ensure that it was handled correctly, professionally, and ethically when it did. And I can 100% stand behind everything that we've done, and we've received compliments all the way from Richmond and even DC. So I'm proud of the way we're handling even the imperfections of our profession. So we go into the accreditation part, and that's another one, because our very first thing that you receive today, we'll be printing them out. They're finalized. It took us 3 years to go through the entire policy program of every division, every job, every task.
And I remember you say you were going to do that.
And we've rewritten every policy to be in alliance with DCJS, and really close. I believe majority of them are close to CALEA, which is nationally standards. So then once you put those policies in effect, then you have to start showing how you work by it and you live by it.
Right.
And so you have to have proofs. So we had to buy software to coincide with everything and build it. And it's not so. I mean, I know some agencies, they've been trying to get accredited for 12 years. And for us to take this task in a pandemic with all the other obstacles that we've dealt with, and in February we will be audited. And we've opened our doors and said, hey, come look at what we're doing, how we've done it, and it includes everything from even the way the parking lot's laid out, to our offices laid out, to our uniforms, to how we report and audit our internally. And all this gets in question, and your books are open. You're talking about transparency.
Sure.
You can't get any more transparent than having someone outside of your agency that's never met you look at your books and tell you what you're doing wrong. And we are more than willing to do that, because that's how much faith and trust we have in what we're doing, that we're willing to show the world.
Right.
And I think it'll become standard in DCJS, and I think this is the part of not law enforcement reform, but evolving in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And if we work for the people, we should be doing this.
All right. Well, law enforcement has taken a lot of hit over the last 3 years.
It has.
Nationwide, and from defunding the police to doing away with the policing, and that didn't last too long, though. I think they came right back.
Right?
Right back around.
Well, when you start defunding law enforcement, and then you don't have law enforcement on the street doing their jobs, and
Right.
then they're asking, well, why don't we have it?
Right.
Because we're not safe.
Right.
So that goes back to the comment that I gave from one individual.
Sure.
I respect deeply. Great man. Been working in this community and been a fixture for 60 years.
Yeah.
So for him to tell me that, it's an honor.
Right.
So we go to the stats. We know one of our largest issues is the drug issue. We did separate from the local drug task force, but we are part of federal task force with the U.S. Postal Services, also DEA HIDA task force. So we're now actually able to reach out past Warren County that's coming into our county.
Right, because it's not originating in Warren County.
Well, let's be honest. Yeah, fentanyl is not being made in Warren County,
Right.
So,
Not that we know of.
and neither is cocaine,
Right.
But we've had large busts, and we take our criticism. The marijuana bust that was, someone said it's just a little bit of weed. Mike, I got to be honest with you. Willie Nelson doesn't even think that's a little bit of weed.
That was a lot of weed, and you kind of fell into it.
Right.
But that was procedures that you went through, and that's why you were able to. That's how I interpret it. Yes, you kind of fell into it. It kind of exposed itself when you stopped for some other reason. It wasn't because of a drug investigation, but you were able to spot it, do it, and that's a lot of weed. And the packaging of it, to me, looked like this wasn't just somebody they did in their bedroom and wrapped it up.
Oh, no, this wasn't.
This wasn't.
And we've had others
That's a large quantity.
It was like a little over 8 pounds, I believe.
Yeah. And people, 8 pounds don't sound like much, but you put it's a lot when it gets into
that's
marijuana.
A lot. And so we were very proud of it, and our deputies are proud of it. They work hard.
Yeah, there was a lot of negative criticism on social media about, it's just weed. Why aren't you guys doing something else? But the fact that you didn't ignore it.
Well, and what I will tell you is the lead that came in, we were told that there were pills involved as well. But we didn't find that. So that case is still ongoing. We can't really talk about that. Some of the other seizures that we've had have taken us from Warren County all the way to the West Coast, all the way to north, the border up there. So those guys are working their rear ends off, and very proud of them. I think on the federal side, we've seized over $100,000 on that aspect this year. I just actually filled out the asset forfeiture form that'll go federal.
Yeah.
So our stats are good. I'm not comparing to anybody. I appreciate what the task force is doing, and I also respect and like what we're doing.
Right.
We will assist anybody. We've assisted every single community around. Our relationship with Fauquier, Page County, Shenandoah County, Frederick County, and so on, all the way up to D.C. line, and even into Maryland, we have relationships that we're actually building, and our intel groups are getting better. And all this takes time. And to do all this in 3 years, I was going through as we were doing our yearly review, and I saw the flyer I made back in 2018 to hand to people to say who I was and what I was running on. And I was so proud I can honestly say I have started and effectively done everything that I've said I was going to do and run on.
Yeah.
Can we still improve? Without a doubt, and we will for the next 8 years.
Right.
As I'm sheriff.
Yeah. Well, those lists are like never ending.
Right. And that, but that's law enforcement, Mike.
Yeah.
I think, and that's for some law enforcement, it's very difficult because if we're doing a video, there's an end to the video, right? And then, so that task is done. Ours, it's never ending. There's always the next case and always the next case. And it's always going to be that way. But, as far as our going after the drugs, our mentoring the youth, our community policing we're getting involved. Look at the drug take back and the packages that we've sent out, our canine programs, and so on and so forth, how we're getting involved. That's mentoring the youth, going after the supply chain. Well, when you take, like I have another picture of 13, 14 kilos, when you start taking that level of drugs off the street, you're hitting the supply chain. And so I know we're doing that. Now, can we get more and more? Yes, and we will continue. But I will say, our deputies, our DUIDs have gone up. Our proactive law enforcement felony arrests from 2015 to 2019, the Warren County Sheriff's Office averaged 60 to 70 felony arrests a year. Since 2020, we have averaged almost 200 a year. 200. So, and the seizures and the arrests, that's great. They're doing their job on the street.
Right. People don't realize that Warren County, the physical location of our county, is really a transient location.
Very
with
much so.
2 interstates and all the traffic and the things that come through it for just a small little section. That's what's happening. I mean,
one of the classes we're looking at now, because the inland port is expanding, we know that. And we are getting more industrial, and I believe, our county's trying to bring those larger companies, which is good for our tax base, and it can help our residents. But that means more trucks. Most law enforcement aren't too familiar with trucks and the interdiction of trucks. Well, so one of the classes I'm looking to send our guys to is so they can be more proficient in the commercial trucks and so forth, so we can do more.
They normally
interdiction.
kept that up with the feds.
Or the state. Right.
Yeah, have relief.
And so this way our guys can, and we're trying to get that built in, and everybody knows Donald Ory. He's auxiliary for us, and we're honored to have Donald be an auxiliary with our department. He brings a wealth of knowledge, and every time he goes out, he makes somebody unhappy.
Yeah.
But he's always been that way. But Donald Ory is a straight line police officer and a wealth of knowledge. So our auxiliary program keeps expanding and growing, and that's another reach out to the community. So, like I said, we're doing everything that I ran on, and I'm very proud of that. Our budget, we've stayed within our budget every year, if not under. We're getting, our deputies could use, we're working on that with HR and their salaries and so forth, because we do need to stay comparable and compatible with everyone else. But we also have to understand too that we're not trying to take from the community that we serve.
Right.
So it's got to be a give and take.
When I'm out and about and I see your deputies around, I always try to get them to say something bad about you. But so far, either they're smart enough not to open their mouth. But how do you like working over there? Oh, they long. I haven't really found anybody that's been real negative about it. If they hire them, I guess they quit and go on, move somewhere else.
Well, and that's it. Not every situation you're going to be compatible. That's
it's like a family. You can't get along with your family members,
right? Everybody you've been married a long time. I've been married 30 years. My wife and I haven't been compatible every day.
Well, you always say
30 years.
I've been happily married 20 years, and she says we've been married 30 years. But they asked me happily married, right?
Right. So I'm very proud of where we're at now. I'll send you the book and
Okay.
to publish, and I think Warren County. I really want them to read and see what we've done. Our stats are there. Are we fighting or trying to fix the overdoses and so forth? I definitely believe we're doing our part. Can we do more? We can always do more,
Yeah.
and we'll always try to.
Well, you mentioned accreditation, but also part of that is continuing training for your officers, because some of the failures you have had has been
Training.
And so, and if you don't fail, you don't learn. You have to learn from those mistakes and move forward. So what's the one thing that the public needs to know about the training of your officers? I mean, they go to the academy. Is that the end of it?
Well, before, yes, that's how it was. Then they do 40
On-the-job training. Is
They
that-
do FTO program. So here's that. So it takes us about a year to a year and a half to put someone on the street. Takes 3 or 4 months to hire them, go through the background checks, and it's very thorough. And we're trying to expand on that with polygraphs and psychological. Then they wait for that academy date to come in either January or July. So if we get through the process, we got to wait till that date starts, and then they'll go through the basic academy. Now, this basic academy is exactly what that says.
It's like basic training.
It is. They're just
doesn't-
giving you enough, and then you learn more. It takes you years. So, in the other larger areas, I think when I went through DCJS, Department of Criminal Justice Services, had about 900 training objectives, 900 to 1,000. It may have been, a little bit more. But Fairfax Academy also had 1,500 academy training ATOs. And so it gave these things you have to pass. So the basic academy, you're going through just the basic DCJS standards. So what we've done is we're doing pre-academy and we're doing a post-academy. So when they get out, they get an additional, before they go, and when they come back, additional 3 to 4 more weeks. So we're talking about ethics, we're talking about de-escalation, we're talking about CIT, we're talking about and explaining duty to intervene, and so on and so forth. We give them fraudulent document classes, we give them report writing classes, we give them all this before they go, and this is our expectations as well. So we're expanding that. And then you have advanced training that you pick up. You have to do 40 hours. I believe it's every year.
40 hours every 2 years.
Every 2 years you have to do 40 we call it in-service training. So they're getting that. We're trying to implement right now a more defensive tactics. So that's where you talk about verbal de-escalation, and also putting soft hands, right? How you can position yourself to get you out of it instead of just being the ram that they teach in the academy.
Right.
So, we see the shortcomings in the training in law enforcement. I've been preaching about it with you for probably 12 years now.
Right.
So COVID kind of threw us behind the times on that one. Budgetary, it is. I mean, you can never have enough training. But one thing I will say, if you look at what we've been able to accomplish, we're bringing training to Warren County. We're bringing training expert individuals into Warren County to teach on MS-13, on search warrant writing, on deviant groups, and so on and so forth. We're bringing this training to Warren County, and it doesn't cost us except for that trainer to bring them here.
Right.
So I can train an entire agency for minimal cost compared to what it'd be to send one person.
One guy to the school.
Right. You send someone to school, you have to pay for the lodging, the travel, plus the school itself, and and they're per diem.
And they're out of the service. They're not. They're
That's
gone.
just one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if I can bring the person to our office to teach the entire agency, I'm getting a lot more for the buck.
Right. One thing I think you mentioned before, and that's this mental health issues, because a lot of time is spent by the sheriff and the police department, domestic cases, and obviously involves some sort of mental issues, sometimes alcohol and drugs, and just people can't get along with each other.
Or suicidal
And
individuals.
Suicides. We've had several suicides these past 3 or 4 years, and drug overdoses, and a lot of this is mental.
It's mental
So
health.
what's the program on that? Because the budgets have been slacked and cut. It seems like we have, like in Warren County, if I'm correct, we have no beds. We have nothing in person in Warren County for mental health.
Correct.
It's a daunting task.
It's a statewide issue as well. It's not
Nationwide. It's not just statewide. It's nationwide. And so these are some of the things that we do come. And every conference I go to, that's what we're talking about with the attorney generals and so on and so forth. And I don't know where the answer is. That's really got to be honest. That's way out of my wheelhouse on that.
Right. But you're going to have deputies that deal with this.
No, now on the dealing with them, that's differently.
CIT.
So CIT, and I was one of the first people in Herndon to get CIT, and I was
Tell us what that is.
All right, crisis intervention.
Okay, crisis intervention. We're using all these acronyms.
Yeah, right.
you know.
I apologize. So what it would be like, I would be on a squad of 5 people, and if a suicide attempt came out, that was my duty. That was one of my additional duties. I had to respond, and we use different techniques trying to de-escalate the situation to get them to
Kind of like a negotiator.
kind of
That's what-
to go with you to either get mental health or whatever. But with that being said, too, people also have to understand that just because someone's having issues doesn't mean I have the constitutional right to put them in custody and
Right.
take them. You deal with a lot with homeless and everything else. Just because they're homeless doesn't mean that they don't have a right to be homeless.
Right.
Just because someone has a mental health issue doesn't mean that they're breaking the law. Sitting on a park bench at 3 o'clock in the morning, if they have a coat on, they're fed, and they have the means to take care of themselves, and they're not trying to harm themselves or anyone else, that doesn't give me the authority to just go take them to get evaluated.
Right.
So, when I say we're protecting everyone's constitutional rights, 100%. I remember an issue where an autistic male, this was many years ago, and I was CIT, autistic male, his guardians hadn't seen him in a while. So they put out a bolo, endangered, and we were like, actually, we just saw him the other day at the Neighborhood Resource Center.
Right.
He's not endangered. He walks around the community all the time. He would actually sleep on the first base dugout on top of it in his sleeping bag because he didn't want to go home. And he was autistic, but he was very functional, just didn't speak. So, people actually addressed him, officers did, and they were really demanding that he go back home. And I pulled out, you can't do that. It's not against the law for him to be autistic.
Right.
And it's not against the law for him to be sitting here on a park bench eating a donut and drinking a Sprite.
Right.
So just because someone said he was 20-some years old. So we have to be very conscious of the Constitution, because once we start deviating away from it,
Making these
we
exceptions.
come real close to a socialism.
Right.
And I truly believe that my job as sheriff is to stand and protect everyone's constitutional right. And I will continue to do so as long as I'm in the office. And I think we've proven that we will with the masks and everything else.
Right. And again, it is because you're a constitutional officer.
100%.
In the Constitution, of the state Constitution. So a lot of stuff goes on at the Sheriff's Department. This is just the beginning of the year. We want to try to get you back in here. Maybe we can let Robbie take a break. No.
Right? Well, I really want to get you the year in review.
Yes, that'd be great. We talked about that, and you were just finishing it up last week.
Right? And I'm so proud of it. The work that they've done and what we've done as you go through and look, I'm so proud of the stats and everything everyone's doing. Our staffing's building back up, and we're getting some really good candidates. Very, very happy about that. And, it's still, you hire 5 and you may keep 2 or 3.
Out of 100 applicants.
we right?
Yeah.
Well, we talked to our background investigator, Joel, and he was like, Sheriff, in the last 2 years, I've done 80 some background investigations, and we've only hired 20. So that'll tell you how in depth we're going. And it's to the point now that it goes through all these steps per our policies. I don't sign on if it doesn't hit my desk. Then people say, "Hey, I applied for you." Well, that's not up to me until it gets to my desk. It's not, and because I have to do that because we have to do it right.
Right.
And I'm going to say this: it's back in the day, where it was the good old boys, and that's not how it is.
Everyone
anymore.
was related to everyone on the force.
We're done with that. We're going to. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your gender. I don't care any of that. If you're the best person for the job, we're going to hire you, and we're going to do our best. But we do hire very good people that we're very happy about, and then they get out of the academy and they hit the street and they're like, "Whoa. This isn't for me. This is different," because they could be up on one mountain on a call that is getting them nervous, and then they have a wife and children. They're like, I think I want to be able to go home to my wife and children at night and not have the stress that goes with it. But that's part of the job.
Until someone shoots at you, you get a whole nother feeling and a whole other situation.
The job is very challenging, and the deputies in Warren County, I'm very proud of them. Very proud of them.
Well, speaking of the hiring, Sheriff Butler had asked me to look into the Army Pays program.
Right.
So we're pleased to announce that has finally come to an end, and we were able to successfully join. We needed to have the county on board to meet the minimum requirement for employee staffing, because you had to have at least 250 people, and the Sheriff's Office didn't employ that many, but with the county we did. So we were able to get the county on board by an initiative that we started, and now we're going to be able to hire Army vets. Not that we didn't hire them before, but with the
When
Army.
you say Army, you mean military?
No, I mean
Army.
Army.
Just the Army.
No.
Oh,
This
not,
is
not
an
the Air
Ar-
Force.
No,
Come on now.
We'll cover all of them. We'll hold everybody
So
good.
there's a reason for that. This is a program of the Army, not of the entire services.
Right.
So with the Army Pays program, what this is it's basically like an Indeed form, I believe.
Right.
We can post a job on the Army Pays website, and then everyone that is in the Army that is getting ready to be discharged, or if they're part of some sort of schooling,
good.
we can give them an interview, and this will guarantee every Army vet that applies for
With
our
an
job
honorable discharge.
with an honorable discharge, an interview.
Right. That's great.
Doesn't mean they'll get the job, but at least they get
They get
a
their
fair
foot in the
shake.
door.
They get their foot in the door, and
Yeah.
they get an opportunity. And
They're not rejected before they start.
but our sheriff's office, that's been our motto anyway. If you are a veteran and have served this country, we are going, and you have an honorable discharge, we are going to give you an interview. We are going to give you. You've earned that respect. And a lot of the times, I'm the one doing the initial interview. You deserve the respect to come into my office and sit with me, and we'll talk about what you can add to this community and what you can't. And I'm very proud of that. I think, and Able Forces, Skip Rogers,
Skip's done a great job.
oh
hasn't he?
my gosh, the work that man's done. Him and I went to Walter Reed this year and got two. We picked up 2 mechanical wheelchairs for disabled veterans, and we were able to bring that back. What a great day to go up there and meet some of those individuals and reach out to the VA and everything up there. It's just been I'll tell you what, it has been an honor, and I am blessed to be Warren County Sheriff. And I am looking forward to the next 8 years.
All right.
So speaking of
Be
Skip,
positive.
Skip
I'm positive.
with Able Forces, he turned me on to an individual named Forrest from Missing in America.
Oh, yeah,
As we've
that's another
discussed
good
a few
program.
times on here, that we intended to do our unclaimed burial.
Right.
So that has finally come to an end as well. Through the help with Missing in America, Forrest was able to determine that 2 of the individuals that we had in our unclaimed body area, out of the 19 that we inherited, that 2 of them will get military burials, and they will be buried in Culpeper. I will meet with Skip Friday to determine the arrangements. We're anticipating that it's going to be an April date. Some of the cemeteries don't like digging in the wintertime. The ground gets a little hard, so we'll do something most likely in April, but we'll be back to discuss that.
Think about that. That's any man, woman who serves their country deserves to be buried with honors. And So that was one of my biggest pushes
Sure,
with
sure.
those bodies. I reached out to Terry and I said, and Skip, and I said, hey, I don't want these unmanned. If they're veterans, let's see if we can't.
And we waited this long, another couple more weeks or
Right.
months, not going to
And-
make a difference.
Yeah,
And
we
if-
want to make sure we did it right.
Of course, Terry and the community policing unit and Skip Rogers did what they always do, and they step
Yeah,
up to the
yeah,
batter's plate and knock it out of the park. So it really is an honor to be the sheriff and see all this great work that's being
A
done.
lot of great things have happened, and I know you've had some low moments, and I'm sure you've learned from that, and things will go forward. But it happens to everyone. But we could talk for another hour, I'm sure. So we're going to come back
Anytime you want.
in next month, and we'll do some more.
Sounds good.
Maybe we'll
Okay.
bring you along with Robbie, and we'll see what we can get
We
done.
will Robbie. And
We
all,
only
right?
well, I don't know if he can get up the stairs.
We
but
might
tell
have
him you
to go
can't
to-
come this until you can walk up steps.
Might have to bring y'all to the office.
Zoom meeting.
Zoom meeting.
There you
No,
go.
it ain't gonna happen. So, anyway, it's great, Sheriff Sergeant Fritts. I appreciate everything you guys do.
Anytime.
And we'll continue this next month.
Well, Mike, if anyone asks you, yes, I am running again.
Okay.
All right, because someone asked me that the other day. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
With all the great things this sheriff's office has
Yeah.
done, why wouldn't I?
All right.
We're going to keep pushing it forward.
All right, we're going to hold your feet to the fire.
That's fine.
And we'll see.
good with that.
We appreciate that. And again, and thanks for being so open with us over these last years. And we hope to continue,
appreciate it.
spreading the good word in our community and try to make it a great place that it is. All right.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
again,
Thank you.
gentlemen. I really
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man.